All right. Welcome back to the Sort of Sports Podcast. We are now on to episode 17. That's even a bigger number. That's big number. So, the last one we did was my MLB playoff preview. So I guess we're going to start off with that. This is the NBA preview. We're going to start off real quick with the MLB pennants because those are currently set. Last night, the Astros beat the Red Sox, tying that series 1-1, and the Braves beat the Dodgers, taking the first game in that series. I honestly believe right now we're moving towards an Astros-Dodgers World Series, which is a bit of a nightmare scenario for me. But the Red Sox have been the team that just really... Usually there's a team in the MLB playoffs that just, explodes and starts playing their best baseball right in October, and that is how the Red Sox have been, especially Kike Hernandez. He was crazy, and so this entire postseason he's been crazy. So the Red Sox, I could really see it, but honestly I'm not super high on the Braves. We knew that, and so I think the Dodgers are going to beat them. They got the better pitching. I think they just got a better team overall. Maybe the only thing the Braves have over them is their infield's better, but they probably have the best infield in baseball. So yeah. And just to put it in perspective, for those of you who didn't watch a Red Sox game, they hit 2 grand slams in the first 2 innings. The Red Sox did against the Astros. They were crazy. So, yeah. JD Martinez was hitting homer. Looking at the numbers here, it was a big game. So everybody in the Red Sox played well. I would like to see the Red Sox beat the Astros, but honestly, I think the Astros are going to the World Series against the Dodgers. And to be honest, I don't know who wins that World Series. I think that's very intriguing. There's a bit of a redemptive arc there with the Astros, but there's also a revenge narrative there with the Dodgers. So it's interesting from a narrative perspective, at least, because I think Red Sox Dodgers is just kind of a rehash of 2018, except now Mookie has changed sides. Braves Red Sox or Braves Astros doesn't really come particularly doesn't look particularly interesting. I can't speak. Doesn't look particularly interesting to me, to be honest. Really, if you want to have a really interesting World Series, the Dodgers probably have to beat the Braves. So that's just the marketing perspective. Honestly, I believe it is going to be an Astros-Dodgers World Series, and I'm not sure who wins that. At the moment, I'm almost thinking Astros. The Astros have been playing really, really well. So, Jordan Alvarez, he's crazy. Young, superstar. Not a lot of people talk about him, but Alvarez is really good. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at in the MLB. I think Astros-Dodgers is looking like the World Series. All right, now let's move into the big NBA preview. So, first off, we got a couple questions. First, of course, Ben Simmons. What's going on? Honestly, he's going to be moved by the deadline, right? I feel like that's what makes sense. It was really hard to go into this predictions. I honestly believe this is the most unpredictable NBA season. I don't know. I can't even think of a year. Last year was super fun, but we all had a concept that the Bucks would be around there, and yeah, this year's tough because there's a lot of questions. I've got written down here. There's the Kyrie question, Kawhi being out, Jamal Murray's still out. So, do the Warriors come back to, I feel like all the teams that you think are top contenders, like the Bucks, the Nets, the Lakers, all three of them have big things that could fall apart. The Lakers just might not work out. The Bucks might, slow down after having a big year the year before. The Nets, of course, have the whole Kyrie Irving thing and the fact that Harden and KD had injuries last year. That entire team had injury issue last year. Then there's the other teams people are talking about as contenders, which are the Suns, the Warriors, potentially the Jazz and Clippers, the Hawks, the Bulls. The Bulls are new. The Hawks, were they a one-hit wonder? They need a couple more years to gel, and they just, got lucky last playoff. I don't think so, but that's an example. The Warriors, maybe they don't click like they used to. The Jazz, can they do what they did a couple years ago again? Not a couple years ago, last year. And then the Suns, can they do what they did last year again? And the Clippers, of course, a big Kawhi issue. So I feel like there's a lot of questions with really every team. There's not one team. If there wasn't any Kyrie Irving question, I feel like I would just be very, very confident in saying the Nets would be the top team in the league. But he's a question. So back to the Simmons thing. I'm really starting to think it's something with the Wizards. Whether he goes to the Wizards, it's a 3-team deal that lands him on the Cavs or lands him on the Pacers or lands him on the Blazers with Lillard. I mean, if it's a Blazers thing, I don't think the Wizards are involved, but I'm starting to think maybe we're moving towards a Beal and Embiid duo that involves the Cavs maybe moving Sexton and some other things to the Wizards. Maybe the Wizards like Garland better. I think they probably like Sexton better just because Garland wants to have Simmons on the team. So I think the Cavs, the Spurs, the Pacers, like teams that are like not contending right now for the title are trying to get him to help build their team around. And I think that's a lot more interesting than him being dumped into a win now situation. Now the Blazers, I don't even know what they do. Do they just rebuild around him? I don't know if they have enough assets to fully go into it. I think him and McCollum work really nice together, but are you going to run, I don't know who you're going to run at point guard. So maybe, I don't think you're going to run Norman Powell at point, are you? I don't think it really makes sense. So that's a question mark. Honestly, I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure on the whole Ben Simmons thing. And that could obviously very clearly change my predictions. I don't have the Sixers going far, though, at the moment because I'm really not sure what to think about them. And even if Simmons would get traded, if they get a big thing like Bradley Beal or Damian Lillard, I'm starting to think Beal's a little more likely. Maybe even De'Aaron Fox. I mean, maybe they would get De'Aaron Fox for him, and the Kings can run Davion Mitchell, Tyrese Halliburton, Simmons. You know, that's like their 3 guys they can work with, and maybe they have to move Bagley with De'Aaron Fox to the Sixers. I think the Sixers do a lot better than I predicted, but I don't think any other team takes a huge jump, even my Cavs, as much as I'd love to see that. So the Simmons thing, I mean, all these are very subject change, but the NBA season starts Tuesday, and I'm recording this on Sunday, so it's very soon. Bucks are going to win night 1, start off the year with a win, because they're a good basketball team. So, I'll talk about Giannis later. So, Kyrie, obviously there's a lot of questions here with Kyrie Irving. I'm not sure what's going to happen. He's not sure what's going to happen. I don't think anyone really knows what's going to go on. For the moment being, I kind of looked at things as in Kyrie Irving will not be there for the season, and maybe by the playoffs he pops in. I don't know. This is a day-by-day thing that just keeps escalating. So no one's sure. So I tried to put my Nets predictions about in check where if Kyrie is back, it could still work. And I was confident in whatever happens. So Simmons and Kyrie are obviously the 2 biggest questions. I've been seeing Simmons for Kyrie trades. I don't know about the fit there in Brooklyn, but it would definitely work on the Sixers. So now all this Kyrie stuff is setting us up for a perfect Kevin Durant MVP narrative. And when I talk about my picks for MVP, there's really 2 guys, and that's Giannis and KD. I see the Tatum talk. I'm not sure about Tatum. I think Tatum's going to win an MVP within the next 3 to 4 years. I think Luka is too, but I don't think this is their year. I think maybe next year or a couple years down the line. This year, it really looks like we're building towards a Giannis versus KD narrative because they're kind of battling for the 2 best, the 2 best players in the NBA, and there's a very clear battle for who the number 1 best player in the NBA is. And I think if Kyrie's out the whole year and KD gets them to be the 1 seed and they look awesome, he's going to win that MVP. But if Giannis, have you seen preseason Giannis? I don't usually watch much preseason. I don't pay much attention. But Giannis has been looking so good in preseason that I honestly think he's taken his game up another level. I think he's stepping up again I don't think we've seen peak Giannis, and he's starting to go into peak Giannis. So the fact that non-peak Giannis, in my opinion, is the best player in the NBA means peak Giannis will be crazy. So really what I'm saying here with this season, it's going to either be this perfect KD MVP narrative and Kevin Durant's going to play awesome, be the best player in the NBA, or Giannis is going to take his game up another level. You see him shooting mid-rangers. You see him shooting three-pointers. He's got his shot looking better. He just looks even better. He looks like a freak. The Greek freak. Yeah, I did that on purpose. And so I really have a tough time here choosing between Giannis or KD, but we'll talk about more of that when we get to the MVP. But that's a lot my predictions are off of. For the East, my 2 top teams are the Bucks and Nets because I think those are the 2 best players in the NBA, and I think that's going to be the battle for MVP this year. I think there's definitely potential for a Luka MVP. A Tatum MVP I think is less likely. Maybe even a Donovan Mitchell MVP. But I do think it's really starting to look like a KD versus Giannis MVP year. But honestly, this year just looks so crazy. This 75th anniversary of the NBA, it looks like it's going to be another great season. I think last year was one of the best seasons we've ever had. The playoffs are great. The season was great. Really, the only issue we had was a lot of injuries, but that did lead to some interesting matchups. But I feel like a lot of big things happened last year, a lot of interesting narratives. Trae Young became like this huge deal. Like, he's this huge villain now, and everybody knows how Trae Young is. Giannis, finally got the chip, which is big for his career and what people believe he can do in his career. Harden got traded to the Nets and made this huge big three. There's all this stuff that went on last year that's going to have effects forever, and a lot of big things happened last season. I think we're in store for another one of those big years. So, talking about MVP, there's a bit of chatter about Paul George MVP, and I'm not sure on that one. I would like to see what happen. I think it's very possible, but based off what I've seen from Paul George in the last couple of years, I don't know if he's capable of being MVPG anymore. So if he does it, cornrow Paul George steps up as MVP, I'll be blown away because I'm not 100% sure he can do that. Kawhi is going to be out indefinitely. We don't know if it's going to be to the playoffs. He might be out the whole year. No one knows. But if Paul George can get this Clips team to a top 4, top 3 seed, and is averaging numbers that are, 25 and 5 rebounds and 4 assists and 2 steals and is playing some amazing defense and carrying the Clippers team, I think he's probably a lock for MVP. I think he's probably my 3rd best pick for MVP, honestly. I'd even put him over Luka because he's got the right narrative going in. But I don't have faith enough in Paul George. He's kind of broken my faith over the last couple of years because I've been a big Clippers believer. And last 2 years, I had them in the finals in 2020. I didn't have the podcast then, so I couldn't really put that out. And then last year, in 21, I had them versus the Sixers. And my other thought was maybe the Bucks. So Bucks, Nets, Sixers versus the Clippers. I thought the Clippers were coming out of the West. And they did not. So playoff P has stepped it up. He's a lot better than pandemic P. But if we get to see MVP this year, I'll be very impressed, but I don't really have faith that's happening. So now let's move into the big part, the predictions. I got to do the first 10 seeds because there's the play-in tournament, so I had to set all that up. So starting with 10th in the West, we'll start with the Western Conference because I like the Eastern Conference better, obviously, because the Bucks are in there and the Cavs and the Pistons, and those are the 3 teams I'm really big on. Cavs my favorite, and then the Bucks probably second favorite just because Giannis is my favorite, period. So 10th in the West, I'm putting the Blazers. I know it feels low, but I don't really. I'm saying this is a hard year to predict, I feel like, because I think there's a lot of teams with questions around them, and I could see the Blazers slowing down this year. But Damian Lillard's going to get them into a play-in game. That's going to happen. He's going to get them to be in the playoffs. So I got to take the Blazers there. 9th is the Pelicans. I'm not sure when the Pelicans are going to step up, whether it's a coaching thing, whether it's a personnel thing. I don't know when it's going to be, but I don't think it's going to be this year. I think Zion's going to be amazing and fly under the radar like he did last year. I don't know if he's going to get as much recognition as he deserves because he is looking awesome. Maybe this is the year he gets more recognition, but I think that's a year or 2 down the line. So I'm going to put the Pelicans 9th, but I expect Zion to be crazy. 8th is going to be the Mavericks. I would like to put them higher, like I'd like to put the Blazers higher, but I feel like the 7 teams in front of them are very good, and I'm not sure if the Mavericks made enough moves for me to be confident in them getting better. Now, if they go get Bradley Beal, they're a top 5 seed. But for the way things is, it's just going to be Luka having to carry them to the playoffs. 7 is the Grizzlies, and this might seem a bit high, but I really like what the Grizzlies got going on. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to step up, not in a major way, average 20 points or anything crazy, but I think he's going to be really Morant's second man, and Brooks is going to be solid, and Kyle Anderson's going to be solid, and that whole team's just going to work well together. Steven Adams, their center, he's going to be solid. So I expect Ja to have a big year, maybe be an all-NBA third-teamer. So I expect the Grizzlies to make the 7th seed. 6th is the Nuggets. Once Jamal Murray comes back, they're legitimately, I think, a finals contender, but they're going to lose a good amount of games during their early parts of the season because they're going to be starting Monte Morris. No offense, Monte Morris. I actually really like Monte Morris. He's not as good as my guy Shake Milton, but he's pretty solid, and so Nuggets are good, but they're not going to win a ton of games early, but I do think they're a contending team. 5th is the Clips. This might be a little high, but I'm going to go with it. I think it's the right amount of Paul George carrying without it getting into MVPG territory. So, Clips, I mean, if Reggie Jackson can keep playing like he did in last year's playoffs, they're going to be a playoff team and be a top 5 seed. Fourth is going to be the Jazz. This is the one I'm not very confident on because I love Donovan Mitchell and I like what this team's got going on, but I feel like every year they outperform what they should, and I don't know how much longer they can keep doing that, but I really can't bet against them. So I'm going to put them fourth because they had it going on last year, see if they can do it again. Third's the Warriors. This is the one, I feel like the Warriors are very boom or bust. They're either going to be awesome or they're going to be nowhere near where we want them to be. So I'm putting the Warriors here. I think Steph's going to have an MVP level year. I don't think he's going to be able to win it, though, just because his numbers aren't going to be as crazy as they were last year. And if he couldn't win it last year, I don't think he's going to be able to win it this year. I think him and Clay are going to be great together. I think Steph could potentially be an All-NBA first-teamer, and the Warriors are going to look awesome, but I don't think he's winning MVP. I really think this year for MVP it's going to be a Giannis versus KD thing. Is it possible we get a Curry versus KD thing? Yeah. But I'm kind of banking on this Giannis thing. After watching him, I'm really impressed, and I'm starting to think he's going to step it up and have his best year. So 2 is going to be the Suns. It's another one I'm not 100% confident. I'm not sure can they replicate what they did last year, but all the personnel is really the same there, and Ayton's only going to get better. Booker's only going to get better. And as long as Paul can keep being the way he is, they're going to be a good team. So the Suns, since they're so young, you really can't bet against them. So we're going to go with the Phoenix Suns. Now, 1 is the Lakers. I'm high on this Lakers team. I don't want to be, but I am. Russell Westbrook, I think, is going to be really the key for this team. LeBron's going to play LeBron. AD is going to play AD. And if Russell Westbrook plays to his potential on this team, they're going to be one of the best teams in the NBA and a championship favorite, if not the championship favorite. It really all depends on what Russell Westbrook can do, and he's got to know his legacy's on the line here. This is the Russell Westbrook. This is the big Russell Westbrook moment. This biggest opportunity of his career, and probably the last title opportunity in like a starting, main role he's going to get. So he's got to take advantage of this while he can, and I think it's going to be incredibly interesting for the Lakers. Now, health can obviously play a role in that too. If the Lakers, LeBron goes down, I think that really opens the door for the Warriors and the Suns and the Clippers and definitely the Nuggets too. Maybe the Jazz to, be that team in the West. I think my favorite there would probably be the Warriors and the Suns, but if health hits the Lakers in a bad way, be prepared. Let's move over to the East. 10th is the Pistons. Probably shouldn't be doing this, but I said before that I think within the next 4 to 5 years the Pistons are going to be in the finals. I think it's a good start to it. Killian Hayes looked good in the preseason, but granted, I never put a lot of stock in preseason, but he did look pretty good. I was happy with how he looked. And Cade Cunningham's going to be him versus Jalen Green the whole year. This might become like a Magic Bird narrative where these two are always competing because I think they're both going to be awesome their rookie year. And I think, we'll get to the rookie of the year later, but I think the Pistons are going to play really well together. I like the core they have going on. 9th is going to be the Sixers. With all that drama going on, unless Simmons is moved, they're not going to be in the top 8. I mean, maybe they squeeze in a 7-6, but I love Embiid, but if he's probably going to have some games off. It's almost a definite. He's going to miss probably 20-ish games. And so if that happens and you're not sure what's going on with Simmons and he doesn't want to be there, you're going to have big issues. So until they move Simmons, this is really I have to predict them. And this prediction could be incredibly wrong in 6 months because they go out and they get Damian Lillard and they're maybe they're the 1 seed potentially. But right now, the way looking at it, I don't think they're going to be a play-in team. 8th is the Hornets. I'd love to put them higher. I love what they're building, but they didn't really take any major steps to the point where I believe they're going to be better. I think Book Knight's going to be really good for them. I love P.J. Washington for them. LaMelo's going to be crazy. And so, yeah, that team's going to be good, but more of a future team than, right now. I don't think this is their year to take this step forward. 7's the Knicks. I want to put them higher too. I could definitely see them getting higher, but the top 5 I have here, I'm really pretty set on. So the Knicks got to be lower. Hopefully Randall can play the way he did last year. Randall became one of my favorite players last year. I love the way he played. So I'd like to see the Knicks team just keep up what they're doing. Now, you want to talk about a team that could surprise and outperform themselves in the playoffs would be this Knicks team. They get on the right streak. Maybe they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't have them there, but I'm saying that's a potential team for that. Sixth is the Celtics. I know there's a bit of Celtics hype. I don't really think this is their year, honestly. I'm not riding the Celtics hype train. I love Jason Tatum. Think he's going to be one of the best players in the NBA. I think Jaylen Brown's great sidekick with him. I like what they got going on. I thought, I like Marcus Smart. I thought bringing Al Horford back is going to work nicely for them, but I don't know. It just feels like every year we get high, like we, talking about NBA fans, get high on the Celtics and then they underperform. So I'm not prepared to believe in them yet. And I'm not buying this Tatum for 2022 MVP narrative. I think that's not going to be for a couple years down the line. 5 is going to be the Heat. I think I'm on record saying that I think the Heat were going to be a finals contender. I'm still in that boat. I've really been, last couple months, been thinking, it's like, who do I think's the better team? The Heat, the Bucks, or the Nets? And those, to me, are the top 3 teams of the East. I just don't think the Heat are going to win a ton of regular season games because it's going to take a bit to jive and gel. This Heat team, though, if they get stepping on the right pace, we're going to see a Heat-Lakers finals. I honestly believe that. I don't have that predicted because I think what I have predicted for the playoffs is more likely. But the Heat, if the Heat get on the right page, they're honestly they're a contender for me, the Heat are, but I'm not sure if they could get on that page. I think Lowry's age is going to play a factor. And I think, there's a lot more pressure on them than there ever has been. Oladipo's got to, be able to play his old Oladipo ways because that starting lineup of Lowry, Oladipo, Butler, Bam, that's starting 4. I don't know why I can't remember who the 5. Oh, PJ Tucker, that's who it is. The 5th. That starting 5 right there is great defensively. I think they work all really well together, but it's going to take a bit to gel. We'll talk more about the Heat and their finals in the playoff predictions. 4th is the Bulls. I think they're going to be a really fun regular season team. That'll come in later. I love what the Bulls did this offseason. I think they made themselves finally like a really interesting and fun team, but I don't know if that's going to translate to title success. But at the moment, that starting lineup looks great together. Patrick Williams is going to be better this year. He's going to take a step forward. I think Lonzo is potentially a favorite for most improved. That's actually who I have written in later as most improved. I keep spoiling my own show. I really need to stop doing that. But they're going to be the 4 seed. I feel like they're really going to step it up and look like a really good team. And I really want to see it happen. I think they got a really fun offense. If the defense can stick with it, I think they're going to be a fun team, and they're going to be a team that's dangerous. And there's going to be a lot of hype around them. I could see them essentially being kind of like the Knicks of last year, except there was more hype for the Bulls this year than the Knicks last year going into the year. No one really expected the Knicks to be there. People are expecting the Bulls to be good. So I think they're kind of in that level, though, where it's like, hey, you finally, stepped up and got stuff together. We're really proud. 3 is the Hawks. I think Trae is going to look great. Do I think we're going to have a Trae Young MVP year? Not really. I think there's potential there with everything that went on in the playoffs. But I just think now that we've seen what this Hawks team is capable under Nate McMillan. I don't know why I said Nick. Nate McMillan. He was actually who I thought was going to be coach of the year. I'll talk about that later, though. The Hawks, John Collins, I really like him with Trae Young. I think they're a really nice duo. They're going to play well together. Bogdanovich is nice there. Herter's good there. I think DeAndre Hunter might take a step forward, and that'll be good. Maybe we get more Onyeka Okongwu minutes. I feel like that'd be really nice. And Clint Capella is really good. So that team, I really like what they had going on last year in the playoffs. They were great. So I think they can be really good this year in the regular season and just be a really good team overall. 2's the Nets. Could I put the Bucks here? Yes, but I'm really starting to believe in this KD Giannis thing. KD versus Giannis thing going to be dominating the East, and I think the Bucks are going to have the better regular season record because they're not going to have as many injury problems as the Nets. Until Kyrie's back, I can't have the Nets as the 1 seed, really realistically, because KD and Harden are going to be held back by injuries. So whatever happens to this Kyrie Irving saga really is going to – it's like Kyrie Irving, Ben Simmons, they're really heavily affecting what's going to happen to this NBA season. on a lot of levels, like for the future and right now. For title contention, obviously Kyrie, and for the future of a lot of NBA franchises is Ben Simmons. Number one's the Bucks. I'm really expecting a big Giannis year. This Bucks team, I think, is gelling even better than they were before. Just like, I think the playoffs, they stepped up once they got to the finals. Because I don't think the team that played the Nets was anywhere near as good as the team that played the Suns. I think they just got it together more once they got in the finals. Drew figured out what he could do on the team. And now they're going to have Dante DiVincenzo back, and he's nowhere near an all-star, but he's really, really good to have on that team. He's a starter or a sixth man. So I feel like they're going to gel even better, and they're just going to be – I think they're going to take it up a level. I honestly think they're going to be on a whole nother level than they were last year. And, everybody's going to be like, whoa, the Bucks, maybe they're going to be a championship contender again. I really think they are. So now let's go to the play-in. For the West, we get the 10 Blazers versus the 9 Pelicans. The Blazers win, moving on to potentially be an 8th seed because Damian Lillard's not going to lose that game. So then there's the 8 Mavericks versus the 7 Grizzlies. I'm giving the Mavs the win here. Luka Doncic is going to step up there. So Luka's going to beat the Grizzlies, and I'm really sad that I knocked Ja Morant out of the playoffs already. He didn't even get to be in the playoffs. He's got in the play-in. That makes me really sad. I love Ja Morant. But I don't think it's the Grizzlies' time yet. I think Luka is going to – it's really just a Luka versus Ja battle, and I think Luka's going to win it. Because Luka is he's a top 5 player. So top 5, by the way. It's got to be Giannis, KD, Curry, LeBron, Luka in that order, right? Maybe if you really want to even put LeBron 5th and Luka 4th, but I'm going to put LeBron 4th, Luka 5th, and then Jokic 6th. Sorry, quick aside. Now let's go to the game for the 8th seed. So that's Blazers-Grizzlies, and I will take the Blazers because, like I said, Damian Lillard's not going to lose that. So Damian Lillard's going to get them to the playoffs. For the East, we've got the 10 Pistons versus the 9 Sixers. I got to take the Sixers here. It was risky going at the Pistons being in this position in the first place. So we're going with the Sixers, regardless of Embiid Simmons. And Embiid's going to get that game done. Then we've got the Hornets-Knicks. I'm taking the Hornets here. I think they're going to go and be the 7th seed. That team, I really like what the Hornets have built in there. They're a good young team. They're going to get a good win here. James Borgiano's a good coach for them, too. Then there's the 9 Sixers versus 7 Knicks. I'm taking the Knicks here. This makes the Knicks the 8th seed. The Knicks are going to be really good defensively because of Tom Thibodeau, and I think Randall's going to be able to lock up Embiid here. So obviously, a lot of this changes if there's a move with Ben Simmons that gets Damian Lillard. I mean, then this play-in doesn't really exist, does it? But I don't know what's going on. So this is what's based off what's happening at the moment. So the NBA playoffs, let's go to the West. Start with the West. We've been starting with the West every time. So for the 1 seed, you got the Lakers versus the 10th seeded Blazers. But, they got the 8th seed from the play-in. Taking the Lakers in 5 here. Just really only 5 just because Damian Lillard to get a game in that, beats him. He'll have some 40-point night or something crazy and break some playoff record for something. So like a game 1 record for most points in a game 1 or something like that, or most points in the fourth quarter in a game 1, something like that. Number 2 Suns versus the number 8 Mavs, who are being the 7th seed. Suns in 6 here. Luka's going to put up a good fight, but the Mavericks got to get a better team around him. Honestly, I'm not sure how good this Mavericks team is going to be with Jason Kidd as the head coach and all that. I'm quite worried about what the Mavericks are doing, and hopefully this puts a spotlight on that. Then we get the 3 Warriors versus the 6 Nuggets. This one brings me pain because I want to put the Nuggets farther in the playoffs, but playing the Warriors so early hurts you. So I'm taking the Warriors in 6 here. Is this a series that could flip? Yeah. I think Murray could get on some stuff, and Jokic could be MVP Jokic, and they could win this. But I'm going to take the Warriors. I think we're going to see another year of Super Steph, and him with Clay and Andrew Wiggins playing well. I think, and if Wiseman steps up, this team's going to be crazy. So I know it's a lot of ifs, but I'm really buying into what the Warriors are building there. 4 Jazz versus the 5 Clips. This one hurts. Well, I'm going to take the Clippers in 7. Whether Kawhi's back or not, I feel like they're getting out of the first round. I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to put them there. Then we got the 1 Lakers versus the 5 Clippers in the second round. I'm taking the Lakers in 7 here. I feel like Kawhi might be back at this point, so it's going to go 7. If Kawhi's not back, it definitely doesn't go 7. I should probably go 5 or 6. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say 6, but the Lakers are taking this one for the Battle of LA. Suns Warriors taking the Warriors in 6 over the Suns. This one's pretty risky, but I feel like we're getting the Warriors Lakers. I feel like that's the Western Conference Finals this year based off what's going on. Warriors Lakers Western Conference Finals. Both teams here make a lot of sense to me, but if the Lakers have done this well throughout the season, they're winning this series. So if the Lakers are really as good as being the 1 seed would show them as, they're going to the finals. So that's the Lakers in 7 over the Warriors. It's going to be a good series. It's going to be a heck of a series. That might be an absolute hood classic series, but I'm going to take the Lakers, sadly. That's really a lose-lose for me. So I'm not a big Warriors guy. So now let's go over the East. The 1 Bucks versus the Knicks, who are originally the 7 seed, but are now the 8 seed. So that's going to be the Bucks in 5. Maybe that goes 6. I would love to see the Knicks go farther, but I feel like there's a lot going on. There's a lot of good NBA teams right now. I know that doesn't make sense. Like, there can only be so many, but I feel like there's a lot of really competitive teams like the Knicks. I want to put you farther, Knicks, but I really can't. So, putting the Bucks over the Knicks. Then there's Nets, Hornets. The Hornets are legitimately the 7 seed, and they're playing. No, sorry, Hornets are the 8 seed, and they're playing as the 7 seed because of the plan. So the Hornets would lose the Nets at 5. That's a rematch last year's first round. So that's a little bit of continuity there. Then there's Hawks, Celtics. 80s rivalry here. Dominique Wilkins versus Bird. But in reverse of the 80s, the Hawks are going to win here. Hawks in 7. Feel like Tatum and Brown can push it, but I feel like Trae Young's really going to be good this year. So taking Hawks in 7 here. Bulls, Heat in 6. I'm sorry, Bulls, but the Heat are a playoff team, and I'm not sure if this Bulls team's built to be a playoff team. So I'm taking the Heat in 6 here. Then we have Bucks, Heat, and then you get all those commercials that are like, are the Bucks and, is Giannis and the Heat destined to do this forever? Like 3 straight years of matchups, second-round matchups. So, yikes. Taking the Bucks here, though. Bucks in 6. Thank you, Brandon Jennings. Thank you, Giannis. But yeah, Bucks in 6 here over the Heat. This is really the series that, to me, decides the Eastern Conference Finals potentially. Because if the Nets are just Harden KD at this point, maybe they are Harden, Kyrie, and KD. Regardless of what they are, I think if this Heat team's firing all cylinders, Oladipo's playing really well. Lowry's gelled with the team. Butler's being Butler. Bam's being Bam. Tucker's just being solid. And Tyler Hero's being your 6th man. Stepping up. That's going to be a championship team. But I have more faith in Milwaukee. I'm really buying this Milwaukee repeat narrative, in case you haven't noticed yet. I feel like this year is so unpredictable. I just got to go with my gut. And my gut is telling. There's so many questions, like I said before, like Kyrie. And, can the Bucks keep it? Can the Heat step up? Like, there's so many questions. I got to go with my gut. My gut's saying Bucks. So Bucks in 6 here. Nets, Hawks, Nets in 6. So now we get Bucks. Also, I just realized, the Bucks Heat last year was a first-round matchup. It was not second-round matchup. But sorry about that. Bucks, Nets, Eastern Conference Finals. I feel like this is the big one. Regardless with Kyrie's here, this is a big one. KD, Giannis, whoever's the MVP, fighting against the other one. And 2 biggest MVP candidates potentially. Maybe Giannis is like the 3rd or 4th, but still battle for really the best player in the NBA. I'm going to take the Bucks. I'm really buying into this Bucks team. So I'm taking the Bucks. So we're going Bucks in 7 over the over the Nets. I'm really buying into this Bucks team. I think they're going to step it up. This could obviously not pan out, and that would be very disappointing. Now we got the NBA Finals. No surprise, 2 1 seeds because, I did predict 1 through 8, so the teams that I thought were better are obviously going to be the higher numbers. So it's 1-1, Lakers, Bucks. I'm taking the Bucks in 7 here. Finals MVP, Giannis. I think this is what I thought potentially would be the finals last year. It was not, but this is obviously really good for the NBA. They would absolutely love this because I mean, how much more money can you how much more money can you make than the Giannis LeBron? I mean, really, the only more money series for you, actually, your most moneyed series would be Nets Lakers, very obviously. The Lakers have to be the team out of the West if you want to have this big money NBA championship. But I'm really starting to think here. Really trying to think. I think Heat Lakers is second most, and then Bucks Lakers is third. The only reason Bucks Lakers isn't higher, I think the Giannis LeBron narrative's great. It's better than the Heat Lakers one, but the Heat are more. Miami's making you more money than Milwaukee is. Milwaukee's one of the smallest NBA markets. So, yeah, Bucks in 7 over the Lakers. Finals MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo. That would secure him as the best player in the NBA and do a lot for him. And while this is a risky pick, I have more faith in that team than I do a team with the Nets that's going to have injury problems, and I don't know what's going on with Kyrie. The Heat, they really got to click, and I mean, I thought the Heat would be really good last year and, continue what they were doing before. Tyler Hero kind of took a step back, so I'm not sure on all that, but I'm taking the Bucks here in 7, so this is a risky one, but I honestly think I think Giannis is going for the repeat, so there it is. The NBA awards. Start with MVP. That's going to be KD. We're building towards a perfect Kevin Durant MVP narrative. You thought I was going to say Giannis, didn't you? I know you did. Don't lie to yourself. I know you did. But no, I got to be realistic here. It's going to be Kevin Durant. Rookie of the Year, Jalen Green. It's going to be a big battle him between Cade. That might be a bit of a rivalry there. I think by a bit, I mean there is a rivalry there. And I got to take Jalen Green, though. I think Green's going to win it. He's going to look awesome, and the Rockets got a really nice future ahead of them. 6th man, it's going to be Tyler Hero or Jordan Poole. I feel like one of them makes a lot more sense, which is Tyler Hero, but I think Jordan Poole could really step up for the Warriors, and the Warriors are going to be a good team, so he's got potential there. DPOY, it's got to be Bam or Ben Simmons. I feel like it should have been Ben Simmons last year, and I'm honestly leaning towards Bam. Giannis could definitely get in that conversation, but I think it's going to be Bam Adebayo, so we're going to go Bam Adebayo. Most improved player. This one is incredibly tough to predict. I would be shocked if I got it right. I'm just going to go Lonzo because he's in a better situation. So we're going Lonzo Ball. Coach of the Year is going to be Billy Donovan. It's him, to me, or Nate McMillan. And I think that's because he's, in 1 year is going to have a much better Bulls team than he did last year. Last year I didn't even make the play-in, and this year I have them as the 4 seed. That's a lot because of the front office, but I think coaching is going to play into that, so they're going to give him the Coach of the Year role. And for all you that are worried, I can't promise anything, but I don't think I'll do a weekly tweet about Giannis being MVP. Thank you, Giannis, again, if they repeat. I don't know if I'll have to do that. But for what it's worth, I that joke entertains me. It's like every Tuesday I gotta give out my thank you, Giannis tweet. It's just kind of a running gag for those of you that follow at Sort of Sports Pod on Twitter, which is the official podcast Twitter. So, yeah, that's all the predictions. I plugged the Twitter there for a moment, but, yeah, that's all the predictions. That's it. We're taking the Bucks over the Lakers in 7. MVP is going to be KD. The other finals matchups I find likely are a Lakers-Nets, a Lakers-Heat. Those are really the top 3 most likely. And then after that, we start getting into Warriors or Nuggets potential finals, but really, my 2 favorites are the Lakers-Bucks. If the Lakers don't click, I think we could see a Nuggets year or a Warriors year, which I would love, but I honestly think this Lakers team is going to be really good. And I think Giannis might be repeating, guys. He looks like monstrous. He looks like he wants it. So Giannis is feeling different this year. So because of that, I got to take him. So, yeah, Quinn and I will be recording a new episode, the mega episode, because we had some technical issues. And by that, I mean the microphone was not on when we started recording, so that was very bad. And we got about an hour into it, and we were like, oh, crap, we didn't record any of that. So we're doing one big mega episode. It'll probably be like maybe 2 hours potentially. That's going to cover all the topics we have from the week before and all the topics from this week. So it'll be like a combination of 2 weeks episodes. We did record a tiny bit, which is just the big finish. It was all our predictions for the big games that happened over this weekend. And I'm really upset Iowa lost. But we'll talk about all that tomorrow. So we have the pre-recorded segment. That was our predictions. We'll talk about those predictions, make new predictions, and then talk about everything that we talked about, that we should have talked about last week, but we didn't record. So we did talk about it, but it wasn't recorded. You know what I mean. So thank you all for the NBA preview. Very excited for the 75th season in the NBA. And come on, Giannis, let's repeat for the title. Repeat for the title.